Welcome friends, welcome back to the kitchen. One thing that really drives me crazy is food waste. I absolutely cannot stand food waste. And I do my very best while running a cooking show to not waste food. Julie and I eat everything. Even when it's kind of not very good, we'll still eat it. To that end, Julie and I are leaving in 4 days to go to Japan for 2 weeks. We're meeting up with a bunch of viewers. Hopefully we'll see you there. And I looked in the fridge this morning and said, okay, some of this stuff has got to go. It's not going to be good when we come back in 2 weeks or 2.5 weeks. It's got to be eaten. What can I do with it? What can I make? And so we're going to make a soup. So into this pot, I've got some bacon fat. So I'll put in about that much to start, and we'll let that melt. I've always got bacon fat. If you cook off all of the water out of the bacon fat, it keeps almost indefinitely. So that's not something that I was worried about going bad. Mostly this veg. I've got a couple of stalks of celery. They were getting a little bit soft. They weren't going to make it. A couple of carrots. Again, the same sort of thing. They were getting soft, not going to make it. The onion would have been fine. Would have been okay. Would have made it. But, you know, going to use it anyway just to get it out of the fridge. This is some butternut squash. I made a stew with beef and butternut a couple of weeks ago. And so the butternut had this was what was left from one squash. And so it had been sitting in the fridge. I chopped it up really fine. And this was a part of a bottom blade roast. It was a little bit too much to put in the last stew. So I wrapped it up and stuck it in the freezer. But I thought, I'm going to pull it out. I'm going to use it before I forget about it. So I've chopped it really fine. It's almost like 1 centimeter by 1 centimeter. So in that goes. And we'll brown it really well. Now I'm going to put some salt and pepper in there while it's going. Soups and stews are a great way of using up all of those bits and pieces in the fridge that are just about to go off. Stuff that you wouldn't use anywhere else. It's not really good enough just to put it out on the table, to actually cook it and put it out on the table. It's probably lost some of its flavor. Make a soup. And you don't have to be thinking about soup as a recipe. Not at all. You need a flavorful stock, and you need some flavorful things to put in it. Tomatoes always help to bring out a lot of those flavors. And to that end, I had a half can of tomato paste that was in the back of the fridge that needed to be used, and it's going to go in here too. So this is free-form cooking. This is about not wasting anything. This is about stretching your food dollar and using everything that you buy at the grocery store. So that beef is looking really nice and brown. So there's an argument to be made. Conventional wisdom says I take all of that beef out and then I start browning my vegetables. There's also an argument to be made that you don't really need to in all cases. There are places where you really should. This is one of those cases where I don't really have to. I'm just going to put it all in at this point. I've got some good heat. I've got some really good browning. This is a soup that's going to simmer for a couple of hours. We're going to build all kinds of flavor. The onions are going to brown anyway in the next couple of minutes. Sometimes you just need to keep your cooking simple and moving forward. Sometimes you just don't have time to do it. So this is one of those times. I'm going to clear a little spot here as the vegetables give away some of their moisture. You can get some of that fond off the bottom. Clear a little spot, and in goes the tomato paste. And I'll just stir that around and fry it a little bit just to caramelize it. So I realize I'm a little bit of a contrarian. I do like to fry my tomato paste in the bottom to caramelize some of the sugars and deepen the flavor. I don't do it because I feel that there's a raw taste to the tomatoes. I know enough to know that by the time tomato paste ends up in that can, it's not raw. It's been cooked within an inch of its life. It's been cooked down to a paste. It's not raw. So I don't find any raw flavor, I think is what I'm saying. So I just do it to brown it a little bit, and that really builds up on the bottom of the pan. And the trick is to move on before it burns to the bottom. So next in, I've got some thyme, a bay leaf, our homemade, home-canned canned tomatoes. And those tomatoes they're cooked with celery and onions and some spices and then put in jars. And so there's a really deep flavor going on in the tomatoes. It's a little bit more than just canned tomatoes. Goes really well in a soup like this. Next in is stock. I've got chicken stock. I know it's a beef soup. Why am I using chicken stock? Because I don't have homemade beef stock. And so I have a hierarchy of stocks that I will use. For a beef dish like this, if I had beef stock, homemade beef stock, I would be using it. But because I don't have homemade beef stock, I will use homemade chicken stock as my next choice. If I didn't have homemade chicken stock, I would use store-bought chicken stock as my third choice. Then I would use water. And if I didn't have any water, then I would use store-bought beef stock. Personal taste. That's all that is. That is my personal taste. I just don't like the taste of store-bought beef stock. If you like it, go ahead, use it. I have no problem with that. It really is about pleasing yourself. I'm not here to tell you that you're making a wrong decision in that regard. It's just not the right decision for me. Okay. In that goes. Give it a little bit of a scrape on the bottom because there's quite a bit of fond on there, and I'll work on getting that up. Next in is a dollop of Marmite. If you live in a Vegemite country, use Vegemite. I love Marmite in beef. It really deepens and develops a lot of great flavor. So a dollop of that, that's maybe a tablespoon and a half or 2 tablespoons. We'll mix that in. Give it a bit of a stir. Lid on, low simmer, 1.5 hours to 2 hours. Okay, so about a half an hour from serving this. It's been bubbling away. It smells fantastic. This is the point where I'm going to put in the last few ingredients. So, the butternut squash that I spoke about, it's chopped up into spoon-sized pieces. I've got some frozen corn. I'm going to put that in. And I've got a part bag of frozen peas. We'll finish that off, throw them in. This is a point where often when I make this kind of soup, if I had little part bags of pastas like elbows or farfalle or something like that, there's just a little bit, not enough to make something else, but you know, I would combine those 2 or 3 different kinds, throw them in. A couple tablespoons of rice, uncooked rice would go in at this point. It would be great. The same with a couple tablespoons of pot or pearl barley. They would be fantastic in here right now. Of course, you could always put potatoes in if you wanted potatoes. That's up to you. I'm not going to put any of those things in today. I'm just going to leave the soup with the ingredients that I've got in it. I think it's going to be fantastic. It's going to feed my desire today. So, half an hour simmering with the lid on. Okay, this should be done. It smells wonderful. I'm really looking forward to having this. Here we go.
Hey, Glenn.
Hey, Jules.
Hey, friends. Lard-based soup?
Well, I fried the beef in a good dollop of bacon fat.
Good dollop of bacon fat. All right, then.
You can't beat bacon fat for frying stuff.
Well, it is pretty good, but I don't know why the beef would need...
I didn't have any beef fat. Oh, there is a cup of beef fat in the...
Somewhere.
Drippings from something. When did we have that? Okay, so I give you cleaning out the fridge because we're going on vacation beef soup. And it's going to be hot. It is going to be hot.
I'm guessing there's cauliflower.
No, the cauliflower...
Didn't make it?
The cauliflower didn't make... Sometimes vegetables just go a little bit too far, so there's 2 florets of cauliflower in the fridge that were too far gone. I didn't want to risk it.
Oh, that's terrible. I hate it. I hate it.
Yeah, so do I. That. So do I.
Well, this is really hot. It's even hot to hold. Thank you.
I don't know how I'm going to spoon it into my mouth, though, if I can't hold the bowl.
Well, fair enough. But, you know, hopefully
Okay.
Oh, good soup.
Kind of a classic. I put in the last jar of our stewed tomatoes.
Oh, yeah.
You know, so that went in. There's carrot from the garden. Those last two stalks of celery that were a little bit flimsy. In the back, there was some butternut squash that I had used for something else.
There's like it's yeah.
So the fridge is clean, so we can go away.
That's great. We're ready, and we've got something to eat for today.
And we've got soup for the next few days.
And we could always freeze it if we don't get through it.
Exactly.
Perfect.
Exactly. So you can take the stuff that's at the edge, cook it, and then freeze it for your lunches to take to work, or lunches on days or dinners on days when you come home and it's like, oh, what am I going to eat? You can just pull it out and microwave it and have a really good hearty meal of stuff that otherwise would have ended up in the green bin.
You just don't finish it.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's like, oh, I don't want to eat it anymore.
So I really want you to sort of understand traditional food, but free yourself from the idea of traditional food and just realize that you can put anything in a pot
Almost.
and make soup. And if it ends up a little bit thick, it's a stew. It's good. And if you enjoy eating it, then that's all that matters. Stretch your food budget as far as you can. Thanks for stopping by. See you again soon.